My name is Emily Oyama and I'm from Government Digital Service in the Cabinet Office, and I work in a team called the Digital Inclusion Team, and I head up the sort of partnerships element of that team. So today I'm going to talk about the Digital Inclusion Strategy. It was published in April of this year, and I'm going to just talk to you about what we've been up to and how to develop that strategy. And then I'm going to sort of touch on how we work with partners like Digital Unite and many of the housing associations that are linked up to Connected Housing Initiative, the Connected Housing Initiative that you just heard about. And then I'll sort of briefly touch on a little project that we're thinking about doing around libraries, and then finishing off on about the 25 exemplar services that many bits of our software developers in government digital service are working on. So, I mean, just to give a bit of background, our team is sort of focused on policy, but a lot of the other software developers in government digital service work on sort of more techy, detailed stuff that are shifting a lot of the sort of paper services online. So I think going back to sort of April, it was a strategy that was very much developed with an idea that we would work collaboratively, just like Emma was talking about, working with people on the ground to understand how we can best collaborate and avoid duplication, and also to improve partnership working. So the strategy also has commitments that partners sign up to, as well as commitments that government departments sign up to. So half of the team are focused on making sure those government departments are working together, and quite often, I don't know if you're aware about how Whitehall works, but it very much can be very siloed. So you've got one government department spending money on exactly the same thing as another government department, and they're not talking to each other. And it's exactly, it's the problem about collaboration. I think our team is very much about knocking a few heads together and saying, come on, talk to each other. I went along to that Connected Housing Initiative meeting, and I was really struck by how interesting that we were, all those different housing associations were sitting down in that room and asking questions to that supplier, and really kind of holding them to account. And I think that kind of model will definitely be useful for government. So in the last 6 months, we've been focusing on getting the governance structure set up, so how we're going to work with partners to deliver the strategy. So we've set up a delivery board, which consists of sort of BT and local government association, HEK, to name a few. We've also set up 2 working groups. One is research and evaluation, and another is focused on helping charities and small businesses get online. I think the research and evaluation group is really interesting, touching on what Emma mentioned earlier about the sort of the stats and sort of the 11 million. What we've come to understand is that those stats are very varied, and the baseline is really kind of difficult to get to grips with. And so the research and evaluation working group are working with the BBC and Go On UK and other research groups to try and make sure that we understand what that baseline is, so that all the activity that you guys are all carrying out are measured in an effective way, and that we understand that we're really making a dent in that the number of people who are digitally excluded. And also, just to kind of reiterate that government digital service very much operates on sort of an agile technique, and so we are very much in the process of iterating the strategy. So when it was set up in April, that wasn't a sort of fait accompli, and that wasn't sort of a sort of top-down level diktat to all kind of government departments and local authorities. It's very much a sort of iterative process, and I think we want to really learn from everyone here so that we can get that feedback to then tweak and change things after 6 months. So we work with a number of partners, and we have around about 60 odd partners who have signed up to something called the Digital Inclusion Charter. So that was published alongside the strategy, and that was where we got voluntary and private sector organisations to sign up and commit to working with us to ensure there's collaboration in different areas. And when we work with corporates, we also want to sort of push on them a little bit. We want to use the sort of the clout that government has to say, you know, what can you do for the particular hard to reach that we're trying to reach now? I think that's one focus that I think we might be shifting our strategy towards, is to kind of focus on those particular difficult people to shift. I think Emma mentioned that what we would say in government is the low-hanging fruit has been taken, and I think the sort of 11 million that are left are the particularly difficult to get online, and I think we need to think new innovative ways, new more collaborative ways, and so the sort of the older models might not be the most useful, and so I think hearing from everyone here will really help us develop that. We've also been working very closely with William Seagart, who's due to release an independent panel review on libraries, and we've been looking at if you were to implement Wi-Fi into all public libraries in England, whether we could pull on other partners to possibly create other resources for different kinds of pilots. So we're thinking of possibly doing 5 or 6 pilots in different libraries to see if Wi-Fi and different kinds of things can be produced, whether you can get new innovative models of digital inclusion. I think one of our team members visited Wigan Life Centre, and that's a really interesting centre because people can go in there and book in NHS appointments. They can also sort of rent library books, or go onto the internet. They can also find the job centre is also based there. So it's thinking about things in a more holistic sense, and trying to get different bits of maybe local government or different bits of government to think, what can we put in one place so that the user is at the centre of it, so the user doesn't have to go to different places. And this is very much, again, it kind of links into sort of the agile thinking of, well, what is it that the user needs, and can we just provide it to them in the simplest possible way? So I think the work around we're doing on libraries and some of the innovative models that we want to try out will really help us sort of map that out. And as I sort of briefly mentioned earlier, other bits of our government digital service are sort of tech sort of software developers, and they all think they're in Silicon Valley, but they're not. And basically, we've got 25 exemplar services that we're moving online. 7 of them are now live. One of those is registering to vote is live now. I think applying for a student loan. And in terms of how this links to some of our work, with the strategy we published something called the Digital Inclusion Scale, and we've managed to map all of these services onto that scale to see how complex they are, and that is essentially going to help service delivery managers to understand how complex that service is, so that they can plan assisted digital services or digital inclusion activity to make sure that those who aren't able to use those services online are able to use them successfully. So I'm going to be here at the tea break, And if anybody wants to hear more about the Digital Inclusion Charter and how your organisation can join, I'm happy to talk to you about it. We also have our blog, which is digitalinclusion.blog.gov.uk, and that's really useful. It's got all kinds of things to sort of find out about. And yeah, thank you very much.